Make believe is not pretend. We might be ill, but we're on the mend. It never starts, it never ends. Welcome to Craig and Friends. Welcome to Craig and Friends. Welcome to Craig and Friends.
Well, you know what's exciting? It's the first time we've seen each other in a long time.
I know. Well, it's been like a little over a year.
Yeah, exactly. And at that function was a function, so we weren't like hanging out.
Where was it?
It was at the Belmont.
Yeah.
And it was your birthday celebration, I believe. The reason I pause is because there was a football game on. So I go, wait, whose birthday was that? I go, all right, it was Katie's birthday, but there was a football game on.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what was the function? Oh, yeah, my birthday. Duh.
Yeah. And it was funny because I was at your house when I didn't know something was going on and was going on. And also it was mid-pandemic, so you don't really know what you're like, oh, geez, something happened. What's going on?
Well, no, nothing had gone on yet.
Oh.
It was, like, I knew something was going on, but I hadn't quite got there yet.
Okay. Well, there was a big flood fan.
Oh, yeah. Our house was like the ceiling was ripped out. So, yeah, we had the fans going to dry the beams. It was this freaking nightmare.
Well, yeah, but there was some kind of discord, which we'll maybe get into, maybe not, between two factions. I thought you were going to an event with us, and I came into the bathroom, you weren't, and then later on, that kind of became apparent why.
Yeah.
We might leave that to mystery, we might not. Now I want to get to the intro.
Okay.
At long last. My guest today is not only my former upstairs neighbor, but someone who was instrumental in helping me get through a very dark, confused, and painful time. But that time, as bleak and difficult an era as I could ever have imagined, turned out to be the catalyst that led to me flourishing, discovering, accepting, and celebrating my sexuality. It allowed me to be in the frame of mind required to foster a relationship with the love of my life, Ada Zonderton. I normally don't do an intro of this nature, but that's how much my guest means to me. And I would be remiss if I didn't express that to her in this setting, as well as for the listener. So, as may be rather obvious, I am beyond thrilled to present someone I consider one of my closest friends, Katie Maloney!
Wow, that was really... I'm like... Thank you. That was quite the intro.
Well, thank you. And I meant every single word of it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Good. I'm very happy to tell you that as well, because it's not the easiest thing to text.
No. Well, you do have it in text.
Well, this is true. In notes, though. So I have...
Well, yeah.
So we have loopholes.
Okay. I should have prepared something, but...
That's all right. The next time. Because, we're talking about big life changes, or we have been talking about big life changes.
Yeah.
And you and I both have had significant life changes in the last... 12 months? Would it be about 12 months?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you have got a baby.
Exactly.
Crazy. I'm, divorced. So yeah,
Right.
That's pretty significant, I'd say.
Absolutely. But I think with your situation, as with mine, it's leading to a new era that is more fulfilled even now and full of promise for the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's weird the parallels there.
Oh, it's been blowing my mind. The parallels with so many things. Like my ex, we used to joke about being very similar in temperament and behavior in certain ways to your ex. And, the fact that certain things aren't even acknowledged is very, let's just say parallels, lots of parallels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel very, the things that I was scared of, before or at the beginning of, the separation, ahead of divorce and all that was the, I don't want to say starting over, but,
Oh, well, listen.
Starting from experience, but, being on my own and all of that, like it can be scary because I was with Tom for over a decade. I'd lived with him for a decade. He was the person that I was going to be with for forever. Like he was like my best friend and all that. And so just thinking about just leaving all of that and leaving him and not having that person. And, you know, as much as I knew it was the right choice, it's still like, it terrified me. But then so it wasn't too long after that I started to embrace that. The unknown.
Yeah. How long into the whole conceptual aspect of it before even enacting it? Because you have to sort of decide long before you even talk about it with the other person.
Yeah.
And actually, to that point, how long ago was it when you started thinking, I've really got to go?
So by the time I said, I think I want divorce, that was, you know, February of 2022. You know, a month prior to that, I told them that I wasn't so happy and that, you know, I was feeling that, you know, maybe that I didn't say that was necessarily the tape, even though I kind of felt it. I just kind of wanted to I was trying to let him know where my head was at.
Yeah.
A bit. But, you know, before that, I just knew, and it had been a few months maybe of just living in a bit of denial because it was just like the universe was intervening. You know, it does. It will do that.
No, it absolutely does. But it was intervening at a very strange time where we're coming out of a pandemic. So everything seemed all upside down anyway. I imagine, I don't know how much that felt like for you during this time.
Yeah, I guess the pandemic, but it's also just was you've made every excuse and justification and everything for this person to be with them, to stay with them, to look past every flaw and every mistake and every misstep and every hurt and every transgression and everything, you know, and try to acquiesce and try to be forgiving and, you know, and just, but still never healing from those things, that the universe is just all right, enough is enough, kind of, you know. And I just all those things kind of coming to the forefront of just how not okay I was with it, and that they weren't going to change. And I just was you know, he's just never going to choose me. I'm never going to be a priority. I'm just never that. And that's just, and I just was this voice being and that's not what you want. That's not what you deserve.
Absolutely.
And I just had to it was just so loud and just on repeat nonstop. And it just was I had to just be fully honest with myself and just be you're not happy. And you want to be happy. And you have to be real with yourself that it's not going to be with this person, even though you want it to be. They're never going to be the person that you need them to be. And maybe that they want to be, but they haven't taken the steps. They haven't done the work. They haven't shown up for you.
And in a sense, they're not capable of doing it. And they don't seem to want to put the effort in. So it's a double whammy, because capability is also tied to intent.
Yeah.
And who knows, honestly, what Tom's intent is. I don't know. He might be muddy about it as well. That's not a defense or anything like that. It's kind of a sad thing. Yeah.
I think, you know, even though I've told him all the reasons, given all that, he has understanding and he agrees with a lot of it, but he also doesn't. I don't think he really has grappled with it, has really fully let it sink in.
Well,
because I don't think he ever thought I would leave.
And that gets to the whole being taken for granted thing, which is not a good feeling. And also, I imagine it was really hard to accept that is what was going on, and to feel that. Who wants to feel that? And so we spent a lot of time going, that's not what it is. That's absolutely not what it is. Yeah.
He's not not trying because he doesn't, you know, think I'll leave. There's no way, you know what I mean? That's why, you know, he was very good at getting away with things. You know, people that watch the show, they see it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the reaction now, something I'm happy about, and part of the global reaction to it, or the overall reaction, is that people are realizing the person you actually are, which is a forthright, loyal, no bullshit person who also sniffs out enemy agents, tries to warn people.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing to do that, because that ends up often, as we've talked about many times, blowing up back on you. But you're also true blue. you are, well, as I said in the intro, like a wonderful person. So I'm glad people are starting to see that.
Well, I mean, it's still a little.
I'd say some of the people.
Yeah, no, and I understand. Like I've been a little bit polarizing for people, and I get it, but it's just like a product of being in an unhappy marriage and relationship for so long that it does something to you. And I don't blame it, because like I'll watch back and I'll be like, yeah, I'm pretty miserable,
Yeah.
But
which is amazing in a way. Which another thing we've talked about: who has that much of their life documented in such an extreme, total fashion? Like you can go back, and it's the equivalent of looking back in your phone and seeing photos of when you're miserable, but you have footage and scenarios and all of that happening. Not that it's not painful, but in a way really instructive. And again, the parallels between our situations, when I look at the physical shape I was in when I was with the ex, for me, that was a manifestation of the unhappiness, which I didn't want to see. I mean, I didn't want to see stuff to the point where people from Vanderpump Rules were asking me, hey, what's going on with fill the blank in and fill the blank in? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know, nothing. And then that's a big, by the way, listeners, big tip. If Jax Taylor is curious about what's going on in your life and has a theory about it, take his word. Like if Jax Taylor's invested in what's going on.
Yeah. Well, we only see what we want to see sometimes, and we'll make up all kinds of scenarios and stories in our head just to sleep at night.
And that takes up a lot of energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And does nothing to alleviate depression.
No, I know. I mean, that's what I mean. I did that for how many years?
A long time. Well, I mean, my situation was 14 years roughly.
I mean, it's not the whole time, but I mean, like, that's what I mean.
Right,
I wasn't,
same.
I'm not a person that was miserable 24/7, but had I reached, I wasn't living at my potential all the time, obviously. And again, I wore it in more ways than one myself. So, well, and to that, I wanted to say it in a very nice up with people kind of way. That's absolutely true as well. I think when we are blossoming from a dark place or emerging from a dark place, our glow comes from the inside. Yeah.
Everything is reflected in that, our physical appearance. I mean, you knew me before I am the glowing specimen that I am now. But, there was a massive change. And the gift of that, though, is when it's later in life, in mid-30s, you really get what it's about, and you don't want to avoid seizing any opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely have like more zest for life, and I want to be open to opportunities and being excited about that, like the unknown. I'm like, oh my God, like this time next year, who knows where my life will be. And that is cool and exciting. And where, just a year ago or a little longer now, my life was not planned out, but it was like, I was going to be living in my house with my husband, and it was just sort of like, it was predictable, and it was fine, and I was down for that because I loved this person, and that was what I wanted. But now it's like I would rather be alone than be unhappy.
Absolutely.
Because I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
I have sad days. So I'm still healing, but I'm still enjoying along the way, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Look, I got finally diagnosed bipolar. Some people are like, yeah, no shit. But but
I'm not saying anything.
No, I'm just making a joke.
Okay.
Self-deprecating perhaps, but what was funny, family members said, well, you always have, I always just thought of it, you had really highs and then really low lows. And I was like, that's kind of the textbook description.
That's the indicator right there.
Yeah, and massive family history of it. So, but again, it's one of those things that maybe, and I've talked to how many people about their mental health, about therapy and everything, and then you don't see it about yourself. Actually, being with Ada helped because I had a really bad manic or hypomanic episode last summer, and she was there to witness it, and so therefore you couldn't hide it or just sort of be like, oh, I used to tell people when I couldn't sleep, they're like, well, why don't you just lay there, and then like 15 minutes later, 20 minutes, you'll fall asleep.
Oh God.
And I'd go, no, that 10 minutes after I'm awake, that's when the thought loops start. Oh, you don't get that?
With the what loop?
Thought loops, like
the thought loops,
rumination and all that stuff. What were you going to say before I?
No, I was just, I didn't have anything to say.
Oh no, that's okay.
It was a reaction.
Yeah.
Or if I did, it left my brain immediately when you started talking.
That's the nature of the show anyway. Very free form and very associative. Yeah.
And
a lot of the, now see, I just drifted off. I don't know what I was going to say. But I'm also happy that we had a lovely phone call the other day. 5 hours, by the way. Which
I feel like whenever I talk to you, it's like, well, because we don't get to catch up or talk. So it's like downloading you on like every thing that's happened in the last like year.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And which is a remarkable thing also. And I think goes to exemplify like how close I feel to you. Because the old adage about doesn't matter how much time is gone in between, you pick up right where you left off.
Yeah.
And that's a really special thing, and which I'm very thankful for.
Me too. Thanks.
Thank you. And I guess that's the show. No,
thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, that was we keep the long stuff for private, and then you get the short version. So I got the bipolar diagnosis, and that was a huge change. So in addition to the child and then that, which I'm thankful for, but it's allowed me to avoid the depressive lows that would prevent me from getting to certain things, which felt like I had slipped back years in progress.
Oh, well, now you're actually able to probably like manage and medicate and
that's absolutely the first thing I do in the morning is
knowledge is power.
Yeah, it is. But also like knowledge about oneself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where I was getting to before I drifted off. Because knowledge about oneself. Mm-hmm. Because you've always been a person who's like very intent on the truth.
Correct. Well, I'm not afraid of it.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. And I think that's a problem that people have with me and why I rub them the wrong way, because I'm going to be honest, and sometimes honest to a fault. With some people, I do want to like sometimes baby or cuddle, like sugarcoat, but at the end of the day, like I'm like, oh, it's never gonna like fully last.
Yeah.
Eventually it's gonna come out and I'm gonna be like, oh, word vomit.
That's the trouble too. Sometimes you want to soft shoe something with someone, but then they keep not getting it. Yeah. And you're like, hints are not working. I gotta go in and bludgeon them.
Well, yeah. And it's honestly, like, I have a hard time with my delivery, I guess, is the problem too, is that I don't really know how to just be like, again, like sugar. It's not even about sugarcoating it, but just like, I'm just going to come out with it. Like, I'm very direct. I don't do like
pussyfooting.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Which is hard to take. There was a certain thing I was involved in 2 years ago, and you gave me the rundown, which was 100% accurate. And I was like, what? No, what? Huh? And then 2 weeks later, I called you. I was like, by the way, I just wanted to let you know, you were right about everything. And I should have remembered Katie's always right.
Not to be like, not to suck my own nipple here, but like, I'm never wrong about a lot. And when I am wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. Yeah. But like, you know what? Shit. Well, I can't get them all right. But I'm not like often wrong. Like my intuition is incredibly
adroit.
Yeah. So like, and if I don't know, I'm not going to like, I probably won't say anything.
Yeah. Well, I found that if you don't have a very definite opinion on something, you're not going to jump in just to say something. No, like that's what I mean. So it's like, if I'm saying something, it's because I feel very strongly that this is like probably the best possible or most likely outcome of something. Oh yeah, right. We both have that. Here I am trying to be like, this is most likely what's going to happen. This is actually probably what's going to happen. This is definitely what you can expect from a person, from a situation, from like going down that path, whatever it is. And but I also have to remember sometimes like I need to let people just shoot themselves in the foot. Or like figure it out on their own, or like, learn their own, but when I see also people doing the same shit over and over again, I'm like, but the thing is, you're going to do this again, and then you're going to come to me, and I'm going to be like, and they're going to be like, don't tell me I told you so. I'm like, I have to, because this is like the 4th time you've done this, and you never want to listen to me. I had to do something. When are you going to start listening to me? No, I know. And then after a certain point, like we were talking about energy contracts earlier, And that's when I have to like distance myself from people. Yeah, sadly, that's the thing. And also, if you tell them, like, if you lay out the rules and then they keep pressing past that boundary, then that's like a certain friend of ours who constantly had a problem with a boyfriend, and it was like, oh, it's this routine again. I had to talk to a family member who was talking about something, because here's the other problem. You and I both are the people that people will come to when they have a really big problem, because we're really good at understanding them, giving them the advice. But then the shitty part of that is it's the rinse and repeat of it.
Yeah.
And you take on some of the emotional baggage from them.
Yeah. 100%. And it's like, I'm always happy to do that, because I also love people, and I like love my friends, and I want to be there for them, and I feel for them, and I care for them. But it's like, I can't keep doing this though.
Yeah.
Like I will go insane. Like, how are you not going insane? Like, because again, the definition is, doing the same thing, so it's like, I'm going to go insane and you're not going to go insane. So like, I'm going to bear the brunt of that for both of us now. Like, I don't fucking think so.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's a complete tangent.
That's what the show is based on.
No, because also, like, who is it?
So.
Lala brought up to me the other day, like, she's like, you know what? I hate when people talk about hypocrisy, because at the end of the day, we're all in the context of, like, you can't ever call someone out on something because you did it 6 years ago. In that theory, we're all hypocrites, because we've all made the same mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So the difference is whether or not you never repeat it again.
That's what it's about.
So you can't say that someone's a hypocrite because they made the same mistake 6 years ago that you made today. You should still be able to call them out on it. Like, because at the end, that doesn't make you a hypocrite.
That doesn't make any sense. It's like you apply what you've learned.
Yeah.
And then you do your own process about coming to grips with it. And then you're perfectly allowed to point your finger, especially at certain things that are shocking enough that
it doesn't mean like you're coming from a place of judgment or coming from a place of like a virtue that I would never do that in my life. It's not complete lack of accountability or responsibility to those things.
Yeah.
It's just basically saying, like, you just did this and I'm holding you accountable now, because I was held accountable once. And the more you can hold someone accountable, the more they're going to learn their lesson from it, to not repeat it. Like or like you, it's just like interesting. Mm-hmm. Anyways.
Well, no, I'm with you. No, don't worry about the anyways and tangents.
I'm just saying, so it's like, again, with people where they keep coming to you and you're like, I'm going to give you the same advice.
Well, because you know what that is? That is a dance.
Yeah.
It's a dance that they're very comfortable doing because it is part of their operating system. It's the part of their MO. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they dig the misery that they're getting themselves into because they know it's going to result in a very sympathetic ear. And then they can rinse and repeat. Oh, I feel better now. The burden is lifted. I've shifted some of it onto my very sensitive and empathic friend. And now I'm going to go back into the shit again.
Yeah.
So I can come back to them in 2 weeks.
It can always feel cathartic to like sort of workshop and vent some thoughts and feelings and ideas. And that's slightly different than absolutely just kind of the same, like you said, dance of like you being in the shit constantly and not doing anything about it.
It's like takes two to tango. It does. After a certain point, you have to say, like you said to people, and I've said to people, with the instance I was talking about with the family member, I said, okay, we've just gone through this whole thing. I've told you how to handle this. I can't tell you how many times. I will not talk about this with you again until you are actually doing the thing. Then no problem. There to support you and give you tips from wherever my perspective is. But I can't do this anymore.
Right.
Yeah. You have to actually make the move.
Yeah. It's like I'm ready to change the song.
Yes. I imagine it was a really hard thing also to give up the notion of being a homeowner.
Yeah. Yeah. And that might sound like
bougie.
A little bit, like it's just a what? No, but it was a home. Like it was a home first of all, it was such a milestone in life to be able to buy a home. But buy a home with my husband, someone that I thought we were going to live in that home for.
With possibly kids down the road.
Yeah, like there was plans and the future that I saw in that home, and I loved that home so much. So that was really hard to wrap my head around. Like I struggled with that because it's like one hit after another. It's like first you have to like come to terms with ending your marriage and your, you know, relationship. And then you have to come to terms with like giving up your home and like, where are you going to go? And like, now you're going to live in a, you know, and it's, I don't mind like, okay, yeah, like you're going from living in like a 4-bedroom house to like, it's not the downgrading. I mean, it's just, it's getting back to like a different kind of lifestyle. And that was a minor adjustment as far as I'm concerned. Like I actually don't mind not owning a home anymore because now I get to just call the, you know, whatever, the
building manager.
Yeah. And they just come and like fix things or, you know, and I don't have to like go through it. It's actually very convenient.
And it's nicer than when you lived in this apartment building because the building manager will actually fix it.
Yeah, about that.
It's not like they listen to the show.
It's no, they're very on top of their shit. But yeah, it's at like it, you know, I'm kind of like enjoying like the break from it, you know. But yeah, that was really hard to deal with.
How did you deal with it? Was there anything that you did in particular to cope with it? Because also you're the person a lot of people come to for advice, help, and sympathy.
Yeah.
And sometimes being that person can mean that you don't really know who to go to yourself.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really know who to go to. I mean, I talked to like my mom a lot because, you know, she was, but like the thing is people would be like, Katie, like you're so tough and like you know, you always, you know, put off a tough exterior and like you're not very good at being like vulnerable and all that. And I'm like, true, but it's also like the minute I let my guard down and I want to like talk to people, they'd be like, oh my God, I had no idea you were feeling this way. And I'm like, well, I'm letting you know I feel this way. You tell me that like I'm tough and I put up this tough exterior and I'm not good at being vulnerable. But the minute I feel vulnerable, everyone's like shocked and they like don't know how to handle it. And it's just, so it's like, that's why I put the wall up, because it's like, like the minute I start asking for help or I'm sad or I'm having a tough day, everyone's like, holy shit, I didn't know like you had feelings. It's just like, it was a little hard because I did feel like lonely and isolated. And like, I had to like really like, it would have just been nice if people would have just checked in with me rather than having to like get to a point where I was like having like breakdowns sometimes.
Yeah.
And and people like would, but like really not like as often as I thought, you know? And it's hard because like people are, you know, we're not young anymore. People are like really, they live in their own worlds and they have their own stuff going on. So like I don't fault them for that at all. I never got mad at anyone, you know, especially with a lot of my friends these days, you know, they have kids, they've got babies, they got young kids, you know. And so like my world and life experience is my own. And I don't expect them to like consider that all the time. But it was, you know, like it was kind of a big thing that I was going through. So like it was just like a little, just interesting to be like, wow, like, oh. But you know, but then I have a therapist. So.
Well, therapy is really a key to everything. But I know exactly what you mean though, when you feel like, well, I can't really talk to them, or you try and their surprise at it blunts the next part of the conversation. You feel like they're saying like, wow, I can't even almost handle this idea. So then you're like, well, it's not that bad. Or anyway, how have you been?
Yeah. They're just like, oh my God, like I thought you were fine. You said you seem so fine. And I'm like, because I don't walk around like with a like, you know, because most of the time I want to be in like a really positive headspace because that helps me. That's part of like my healing journey to like, is to like, oh, I feel like there's something in my...
Oh, you're getting emotional, I understand.
To be like, I was like practicing, you know, like I'm someone that wants to like manifest, and I like to practice like law of assumption. Like you're already kind of like living in that space, in that life, in that world that you want to be in eventually. So it was sort of like being a little delusional about my life. And so whenever someone like asks me like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm good. I feel good. You know, even if I didn't fully agree with that, I'm just also not gonna be the person that's like, oh, you know, life is shitty. Like I'm going through this. Who also wants to be that person that's gonna burden people with like their grief and bullshit all the time. Like that's never been my style. I don't like to burden people. I don't like people to worry about me really. So it just was, I just have never, I'm not used to being that person that's like going through shit that I want people to like feel like they have to baby me or feel like they have to worry about me, even though I wanted people to baby me and I want people to, but not to the full extent, but just like, you know,
a little bit would be nice.
A little bit, just like it would have been nice to like not have to feel like I had to reach out to have, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, but I'm not saying no one ever did or that they did.
I know what you mean.
I wasn't like ignored or like
shunned or anything.
No, of course not. But it was just kind of like, I mean, like
sometimes it's the thing of our expectations of people falling short of the expectations we would have for ourselves in the same situation if the situation was reversed.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, if like one of my friends was going through this, I would be like, yeah. But, you know, again, that's just because I would be that way doesn't mean I expect that. You know, and I'm also, my life is different than that, you know.
No, exactly. And that's like a difficult thing to learn. But again, in terms of holding ourselves accountable, that is something that we have to factor in. Mm-hmm. But it's tricky when you're feeling a kind of way. Well,
because I only feel that way when I was like feeling really down and be like, I wish just someone would text me right now and ask me how I was doing, and I didn't have to like reach out and bother them, you know, like,
or like reach out to ask for it, because then it feels icky and it feels like,
but other than that, like when I was having a good day, I wasn't like, why is no one reaching out to me? It was fine. It was just, you know what I mean?
No, it's like, you know, when you're traveling a lot and it's like you're in a good headspace, but you're just super busy. I try to think of like that when you don't hear from certain people. You're like, wait, they're doing that. Now, it was a lot harder when I was in the pits of depression before the medication and the diagnoses and everything. And it was hard because of the pandemic to parse out for a while what was pandemic related, what was this related, what was that related. Please enjoy a sip of your refreshing beverage. And you were enjoying a hard seltzer?
No.
Oh, it's a...
Just in the middle of there. It was a Celsius.
I mean, you know, I wouldn't be judgmental about that.
It's a Celsius.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a energy.
Oh, okay. Anything in a white slim can.
I know. It totally looks like a seltzer of some sort. No, it's like a sparkling sort of essential energy.
It's a health conscious drink with some bubbles. See, I only drink tea and water. It has green
tea with EGCG, ginger, and guarana seed.
EGCG. Wow, that's the new hip research chemical. That
gets your metabolic rate going.
Oh, look at that.
I don't know. I'm like, over here, it's like burns fat. I'm like, I don't think I've ever read this can. I'm like, burns fat. Jesus Christ. I don't know. It's good. It tastes good.
Well, that's all that matters. I only drink water and tea, so most beverages, especially ones that have come out in the last 5 years, I have no fucking idea what they are.
Okay.
It's like cigarette brands, you know, like when they change lights to some other title, they just sell it by... they sell the color is indicative of what it is, because there was a law passed where they couldn't say light because the cigarettes aren't really light. It's a whole thing. They said, oh, that's pandering to people's sense of healthier cigarettes. So now you have to say like mild or something.
Whoever thought a healthy cigarette was healthy?
This is the thing. It's a bunch of bullshit, and it's just an industry that continues to get taxed outrageously, just like Juul. Or any of the vape companies.
Well, I know some guy, I went and got a vape the other day. He's like, don't you think like cigarettes would just be healthier? I'm like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Why would you think a cigarette would be like with the carcinogens in it and the tar and the whatever the hell's like, are you, I mean, listen, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that the vaping is any better, but like, I don't think cigarettes are better than a vape.
I know just from how I felt the 3 days after I switched. And the day before I quit cigarettes, I ran upstairs, probably to come say hi. Because if I didn't make it clear, Katie used to live on the upstairs floor, or the third floor as it's commonly known, not just the upstairs. And we would visit a lot. And I was running up the stairs, and I felt a little winded. And I thought, oh boy. Ooh. And then like a week afterwards, I had no problem. And I wasn't even that heavy of a smoker unless it was some of our hangout nights. It might have been heavy smoking or partying.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
You know, I'm of the belief that cigarettes are definitely terrible.
Oh, same here. Same here.
So like this guy was just like, no, dude. Anyways,
yeah.
back to whatever you were saying.
I think you were saying something. So
we were talking about Celsius.
Now you're trying to deflect. You're deflecting.
No. We were talking about Celsius and well, I guess it's all the same. Yeah.
No, exactly. I just like to accuse you of deflecting because they do it on the show all the time. So it's fun.
Accuse me of things that I'm just not guilty of.
Yes, it's fun to do in a.
It's so fun. Look at how much fun we're having.
Well, I see on the show you're just having a gas. The whole. I mean, just a blast. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I look forward to catching up on the new season. Of course, back in the days where I did the podcast, I would be analyzing the show. So it's interesting that I have a vague awareness of things going on, but I haven't watched the show. Oh, I wanted to tell you a little fun thing about Wang Chung because we talked about Wang Chung a bit. You had 2 of their songs played at your wedding.
Yes.
I did a Q&A with them in London after a screening of To Live and Die in LA. Which
did you tell them that we played their songs at my wedding? Just kidding.
I'm going too soon. I'm friends with them now.
Oh, really?
We went to dinner that night before the thing, and then the next week we returned to see another William Friedkin film and had Szechuan, and then went to the thing. They're lovely.
They would probably
guys.
be like, we don't care.
Well, I got to find out if they watch the show.
I doubt it.
No, I'm kidding.
Well,
I know. I'm not. I didn't say it yet. So
maybe you should be like, have you heard of Scandoval? Because you know what?
Yeah.
At this point, if people hadn't heard of Vanderpump Rules, I think they have now.
I'm wondering how much your phone is blowing up all the time with distant relatives, for people you went to high school, because mine has been blowing up because I used to do the Pump Rules and then Pump podcast, and I know you guys.
I think not not crazy. I think people are probably like, I don't want to like bother her,
Good.
I don't. Not as much as you think. I mean, there's definitely like a lot of people going to be like, oh, come do this podcast or come do this or like. There's like, of course, everyone's like desperate for like tea. I mean, I had like every like gossip Instagram person, just in my DMs being like, I'm dying to know like reunion tea, and I'm like, I am not telling you.
Yeah, why would you? Well,
I'm like, it's just the thing. Well, the thing I always say too is just like, I could tell you. I mean, not like I would, but like if I told, it's like, it's not gonna ever meet watching it.
No, that's
so
the
it's
thing.
like, I know you want to know because it's just like people are just so hungry for it, but it's like, especially with something like the reunion, it's just, you're gonna like, watching it is just.
Yeah, it's like the Super Bowl
of
reality television. Like, why would you want that spoiled? I mean, every once in a while, I don't mind hearing something, but
I don't even know if it's about like the spoiling of it. It's just
talking about a particularly charged moment kind of robs it of the impact it has because there's no preamble or lead up to it.
Yeah, and just some of the stuff is more just like visually like what you're gonna have to see. Like I can't explain like, oh, and then I looked like this and then they look like that. It's like,
and how I rolled my eyes.
People are gonna be like, I don't. I'm like, well, I guess you're just gonna have to wait and see and watch it. So why am I gonna go through and tell you?
Right.
Like, not that I would, but it's just like, everyone chill. And also like there's like still a lot of the season you're gonna have to watch before we get to that. So like some of it won't even make sense because you haven't seen the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's like talking about a scene from a movie outside of its context or a spoiler or something like that. All it's gonna do is serve to make the actual moment far less impactful.
Correct.
Speaking of impactful things, what's dating been like?
Oh. Well, it's really like riding a bike, but not.
The ass gets sore if you have the wrong. No, never mind. That's
the ass gets sore. Oh God, no.
Until you build it up. Well, you know what I mean. You get used to it.
Just the one time.
Yeah. And that could be fun.
But I mean, it's like, it's weird because it's just like, I'll talk about it as something like, oh God, it's just like so. And it's like, people are like, well, you haven't been single that long. I'm like, I know, but it's like I just was though. Like it's all the same still. And also I've had so many friends that are single and I hear their stuff. So it's like, it's not like I've been living under a rock and I don't know like that it's, it's
jungle out there.
It's the Wild Wild West.
But more specifically, what I'm interested in is how you found it dating. Because I remember after getting out of my long relationship that suffered excessive bed death for a very long time, the first time I had sex afterwards,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, sweet liberty. Here we go. I'm on the road to freedom. And, I've been tearing it up ever since, pretty much.
Yeah. No, that was like, boop. Yeah. Because it was just like different. I mean, like, I just, like when you've been with like one person for a really long time, and yeah, it's just like, the intimacy is like dwindled to like just mere like
crumbs.
Exactly. Crumbs. But literally, you kind of like, you're like, do I enjoy having sex? Like, do I even like it? I don't even know, and then you like, finally like have sex with somebody. You're like, oh yeah. Yep.
Oh, I really like this. Also, I'm actually very into it.
And I'm very into it. And I'm actually like really good at it. Like, what the hell? And then you start to realize like
parallels.
This is like, actually very, very important.
It's hugely important.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I now like moving forward is going like, that's going to be something I'm going to like ask people, like, how important is this in a relationship? Because like, I never want it to just to completely like lose its presence and role in a relationship. But I mean, yeah, like for the first while, like when it came to like dating, it was mostly like really casually dating people.
Which, by the way, I recommend that. Anyone listening who's out of a long-term or even a short-term relationship, just go have fun.
Well, yeah, no, because I mean, there's a lot of people that do the whole like, what we'd call, I learned about transference.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of just
you dated your therapist? Although you saw my therapist. I mean, that would have been great. Anyway.
The transfer where, they're kind of just jumping from relationship to relationship and not healing from their previous relationships. They're just taking their bullshit and their trauma and their everything and just carrying it to the next one.
Couple guys we know. Yeah. Anyway.
So it's just like they're going to keep finding themselves in the same position and not growing much from one relationship to the next because they're still in the same relationship.
Yeah.
They're still in that same role and they're still, and still the same set of problems because they're not learning anything. They're not stepping into their own identity, post relationship.
Yeah.
So, but for me, I just want to just like kind of be on my own and reconnect and find my identity again and what I want, because I know what I don't want.
Right.
So I know what to pay attention to obviously now, but also like, what do I want, So for the last like year, it's just been about having fun, going out, meeting people. I don't put myself on any apps. The apps just like, I don't think it's necessary. The apps weren't around prior to like meeting Tom. Mm-hmm. I just met people the old fashioned way. You go out, you see somebody, you're like, what's up? What's your name?
Yeah. You catch vibes
catch vibes. And I think that's just sort of like, I don't need to like be pen pals with somebody for a week and while they're, and they're talking to like how many other people and they're kind of lazy about it. And then you're like, are we going to ever meet up? And no, it's just like you meet somebody there. You've already had a face to face, if there's a vibe, then you can meet up again. It sort of like skips past all that bullshit. Also, I just wasn't like trying to like aggressively pursue anything with anyone, and I'm still like I'm not like looking for relationships. So again, it's just sort of like if I meet someone and we hit it off, we can hang out, or I don't know. I'm staying away from that apps, but I just like wasn't obviously emotionally available to like real actual dating and trying to like find a boyfriend or anything really. So I've just been chilling. I mean, I feel like now if I meet somebody, I'd be open to it, but I also am not trying to like just hang out with somebody for like 3 months and like have just like some bullshit relationship. I don't know. I don't know.
I know. I
don't really want to waste any more time.
No. And that's another benefit of being in the position and mindset. And I would say our age, but as we joked about one time, I'm a certain number of years older than you. We arrived at the thing where when you turn a certain benchmark date, I'll be 50 at the same year, which is kind of funny. I can't remember what age that is, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Well. I'm not sure. I never really like to ask guests particularly about their age. So anyway, but like later in life, which is not even that late. because we're talking about 30s, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to waste any more time, and you don't need to. And also the whole thing of like, well, maybe we'll try this relationship. Once you're back in that, well, maybe, they're kind of this, they're kind of that. I have sort of a rule. If I start doing that, which is very much like you were talking about with Tom, you're making excuses. You're leaning into almost codependency, and you're not listening to your needs, your wants, and your desires.
Yeah. If it's not somebody that I could see like doing like the long haul life with, like truly, then I'm not going to even bother with you. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we can have fun and hang out, but like, I'm not going to be in like a relationship with you.
What are your thoughts on the ingrained heteronormative idea that we link up with someone, we stay with them forever through thick and thin, and there's different versions of thick and thin. There's some thin that is a little too threadbare, frankly.
Yeah.
And you get the house, you eventually have kids, and like, oh, things change. You don't have that much sex after a while. Oh, well, your relationship changes. All that kind of stuff where people tell you that kind of advice and everything. What do you think about that precept in general?
Well, I mean, I sort of lived it. No,
Well, you did. And this is why I'm curious about your thoughts about it, because you're outside of that now.
Well, I mean, I don't think people should feel pressure to stay in that situation if it's no longer what you want.
But I think it's less pressure than the idea that this is what we do, and this is who I am, and I guess this is how things are going to go, because, day rolls after day, and you're in this situation. I mean, you broke away from it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm curious about your thoughts 12 months after basically your realization that it was time to skedaddle.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people in millennial, my generation and younger are not subscribing to that anymore.
Oh, Gen Z.
Yeah,
I don't. Huge
so many people
Gen
are
Z.
not getting married, or they're getting married a lot later in life, and a lot of them are not wanting to have children. I mean, they're talking about how like, the divorce rate is going down. I'm like, yeah, because people aren't getting married.
Right. They're thinking ahead.
Yeah. So I think it's just like normalize the idea of just like not feeling the pressure to settle down, and because everyone else is. I mean, I think there is
familial pressure as well.
Familial pressure. That's a huge one. And I know that's like a lot of, cultural and religious things that can be a part of. But I think, I think just like normalizing that it's okay to wait and not be comparing your life to somebody else. Because the way I look at it, I was talking to my friend yesterday, because she's like, I just feel like all of my friends except for like you now and like two others they're married and they have kids, and I just feel like they're like, do they look at me like I'm a slacker? Like, and I really want like my person that I can just be like with. And I'm like, but do you also realize that like, just because they have like the husband and the kids, that they maybe aren't happy? They might be looking at your life being like, wow, she has like independence and freedom, and I'm here with like my husband who I don't really think I like, and this kid that I'm not sure I like really even want. And that's kind of a dark thought, but it's like that it happens more often than not, because they probably got married when they were like 27 and they didn't quite know who they were, or they changed their mind and it's like too late. But the thing is, it's not too late.
It's never too late.
So I think it's like getting to like waiting to really know who you are, which I think just sometimes really doesn't happen until you're in your 30s.
I think so too.
Truly.
It doesn't happen in your 20s. I mean,
no,
at all.
I don't care what they say. Like, they're like, your brain fully forms when you're like 26 to 28. And I'm like, I don't think, like, maybe if we're talking like on a scientific level,
exactly.
Sure. But like on a behavioral, emotional, so many different levels, I think that just takes a little bit more time, because it's also like environmental and everything like that. So I think like you just gotta like, give it so much more time, because if you want, if it's ultimately what you want, you do want marriage and you do want kids, I think you really gotta like give it time.
So I've been doing a lot of thinking about the prescribed roles that people fall into without even realizing it, because I certainly did the same myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just I mean, I don't know if it's pressure that started from a young age of like maybe TV shows we watch or from parents or from, but it's like because I even think about now, like being like a parent, it's just like, yeah, like you play with like little baby dolls or like you look at shows and you're just like, oh yeah, you grow up, you get married and then you have babies. But
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
what you do.
But it's like kind of like, I never like, when I talk to like my friends, they've always had this like dying urge to like be a mother. And I'm like, I've always like wanted like to like have a family, but like I don't have the dying urge to like be a mother, like where some people are like, I'll do it on my own, I'll get a sperm donor. I'm like, not me.
Well, I always wonder, have you thought about the practical realities of this? Once it's past the initial, oh my God, I'm going to give birth, isn't it wonderful? And everyone's telling you how wonderful it is and it's a blessing. And then I discovered about being a parent in a very surprising way, because Ada thought she couldn't have kids, and I've covered this on the show, but she thought she couldn't after trying voraciously with an ex-partner and ex-husband. And I never, ever, ever entertained the notion of having children. And it feels very natural when I'm talking to Peter and I sort of know what he wants and all that stuff and, all the wonderful things.
Yeah.
But when I found out, I was terrified. But
Yeah.
a friend told me, after I ran it down for them, they said, list all the reasons why you think it's going to be bad or that you don't want to or never have wanted to. And I did. And they said, well, the good thing is nothing that you said is about children. It's about family dynamic. It's about school, bullies, anything, what you could see happening. And because sometimes, even though we're both good at seeing the likely outcome of things, if we're in an anxiety state,
Yeah.
it can be
Yeah.
every fear.
I can catastrophize the situation very easily.
With the best of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that can be troublesome as well. But I'm with you. I think some people get this idea that also, once they do that, everything's going to be fine. Like everything will be taken care of. I find this with weddings as well. People build up a wedding as the day that's going to mark the changeover, that then everything's going to be smooth and easy, where in reality, might not be.
No, that's where things could very much go downhill. But for me, being, having, a child or starting a family is more about the person I would do that with. So it's not, I can't just be like, I want to be a mom, because it's like, I wouldn't want to be like a mother. I don't, so it's like, if I were to meet somebody and they really want a family and I could see like, yeah, like this is somebody I absolutely want to be like the father of my kids and I want to parent with them. And I feel like we would be like a great team in that would totally change my outlook on the whole thing. But it's like, I haven't met that person. So.
I think that's a very smart and pragmatic way to look at it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do this thing where they're like, I got to be in a relationship. So they end up being with someone and not noticing the red flags or even caring about them.
But the same way, if I met somebody and they're like, I don't know if I really want kids, and I fell like in love with them, I'd be like, well, I just like want to be with you. So like, let's just do like life together. I think I could go either way at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a very healthy attitude. And, with my situation, I accepted it and thought, okay, this is what we're doing because I love her, even though, we were courting for 2 years and then spent 1 month in person. But it's held true that this is the one for me after, a series of not so great experiences outside, the random hookups and stuff, which I'm a big believer in. So
the randoms.
Yeah, the random.
Random.
The randoms are like recurring randoms, like, fun friends. I think like friends with benefits has gotten this weird stigma to it where it's like, basically what it means is usually it's like the guy doesn't want to commit. And so they kind of have sex for a while. And these are the stories I hear.
Yeah. Well, it's usually like, no, the reason why it gets a bad rap is because it usually ends up terribly because one person catches feelings or vice versa. And then the other one is like dicked over and then like, yeah.
Yeah, thrown to the side. Yeah, it can be complicated. But I think one of the aspects of non-monogamy that I love is that there's just a lot of opportunity for fun. And then this whole thing called compersion, where you're happy for the other person to be enjoying themselves in that way. It's like, oh, that's great. I'm happy, So that's
But
nice.
that takes a lot of trust, I think.
I couldn't agree more. And I don't think I was with anyone that I trusted in that way before. Or I can't say vice versa because I can't speak for Ada, but.
Like people do that successfully. I'm always like,
Well, it's kind of the norm in the gay community, right? And then it's not the norm in the heterosexual community. And so I think that there is almost a bias against monogamy to a degree in the gay community and vice versa.
Well, yeah. Well, because some people just be like, oh, so you just cheat all the time? And it's like, well, it's not, I guess it's not technically cheating.
And this is a very, very good point, and one I'm really happy you brought up, because to me, cheating is defying the rules established for the game.
Okay.
In, say, just a traditional monogamous relationship, the tacit understanding is that we're not going to step out on one another. But as you know well, the feeling of having it perpetrated on you is a devastating feeling. Well,
because it's done in dark in devious ways, and then there's like the secrets and the lies that come with it, and that's the most painful part, is like the lying to and the deception that happens as a result of it. It's less even about the act of it, because it's like, well,
and this is one of the great things about non-monogamy, right? It's the act. So if the act is okay, if the act is in the terms and conditions,
it's like, well, I mean, I don't know that I like love it, but like it's not the worst part of it.
Well, no, and I'm not saying that it's for everyone, but what I mean is, at the core of it, the worst part of cheating is the betrayal by someone that you believed not only was your person or that you loved, but that wouldn't go about hurting you in such a dark and unpleasant way. I mean, right. With my situation that we were talking about, like that was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like,
well, so what are like the rules of like a non-monogamous
relationship?
Yeah.
Well, they're different for every couple. So,
well, obviously, but I mean, like,
I just wanted to state that, because I don't want to come across as like Mr.
Yeah, but
expert.
I mean, but the common through line is that you are able to partake in extracurricular, sexual activity with other people that are not your partner.
Exactly. That is the basic premise. Yeah.
So
what are the mechanics?
Well, I mean, like, yeah. I imagine some people, some people say like no sex, or I guess, is it all on the table? Is it all
sometimes there's things that are not on the table. Like some couples would say,
how would the lines not get blurred? Like how, like people are able to just be like, I can only do over the pants stuff. I mean, like, come on, if you're like, for me, it's just like, that's,
I don't think it gets that restrictive.
Well, I mean, I know, but I mean, like, it's just like, if you're already, it'd be like, you can only have one bite of this piece of cake. You can't have the whole cake. It's like, I'm not like, it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too in a lot of ways.
Well,
so it's like,
yeah, to be honest, it is. But
not even having the whole cake. Or
no, sometimes you can have the whole cake if it's just referring to sexual stuff. And they could be mutual friends as well. Now, also,
oh, God.
Well, look, quite frankly, your friend group has done a lot.
I'm not.
No, I'm just saying. So think about all those situations.
Just because I may have like hooked up with somebody that my friend now is dating.
That is not
first of all, I hooked up with somebody.
You're deflecting.
Before, but I just want to state this because like people are like, well, what about Carter? I'm like, yeah, I hooked up with Carter before I even knew Kristen Doty existed, and then all of a sudden he showed up and he was Kristen's boyfriend. I'm like, oh, this is awkward because like I hooked up with this guy like a billion years ago, and then with like Peter, like. Yeah, like I started working at SUR and like had a crush on Peter, kissed him once, and then he started dating Stassi, and this was before Stassi and I were friends. I mean, like, yeah, there's some that happens, but like I wasn't like dating somebody, friends with this person, got out of this relationship, and then started dating this. Like that would be weird. Like I don't do like. Listen, you can't help who you fall in love with, but like you can also like avoid certain things that might be like a little awkward.
Absolutely. I wasn't talking specifically about you, but what I'm talking about is. One of the big subjects of the show, Vanderpump Rules,
yes,
is the cheating that people have done.
Correct.
And if, say, imagine those relationships, whether it be yours or anyone else's, it's not specifically about you, but say that Jax and Stassi had some kind of thing in the beginning where it was like, well, sex with other people is cool, but if you develop some kind of emotional thing, or if you are deceptive about something. Now, I don't know if those two in that moment would have been capable of it, but it's a hypothetical. Sadly, of course, we would have been robbed of a lot of great television, but it's the idea that if the act itself isn't so devastating, and it's the betrayal part, So if you take out the betrayal thing where everyone's on the same page, and again, I'm not prescribing this for everyone, but for me and for Ada and lots of other people, this is, I think, what the thing is. And also another factor is that both of us are bisexual or queer or pan, depending on how anyone wants to interpret it. I like to say I'm sexually omnivorous, but I'm up for a lot of things. But also, so sometimes there's things that you might be into that your partner is not into. So then this is one version of it. So then some people, like I know a couple who one of them is into extreme pain play, which is a thing, but their partner recoils at that. However, they
don't want to rob them of pleasure.
Exactly. And the other partner doesn't want to kind of coerce the one who's squeamish about inflicting pain to do that. And in a way, that's a very loving thing. Not in a way, it is a very loving thing because, like I said, the thing is the what do you call it? I can't remember the thing, but what you would call this. But it's not for everyone, of course. But since we're talking about the particulars,
well, yeah, no, I make it that makes sense. If there's something very specific that somebody's into that they really kind of like might need to feel sexually fulfilled, and the other person's just like, it's like, that's a hard no, then maybe allow them to seek that elsewhere.
And I think that
I can get down with that.
Yeah. Okay. And, and there's a lot of don't ask, don't tell couples who might not even call themselves non-monogamous, but I'm sure we've known plenty of people, and I'm not pointing a finger at anyone on Vanderpump Rules at all, but we know so many people, which is just a fact. Well, I will state this. I think I'm not against non-monogamy. I just think that like it would have to be with the right person that would be like, listen, this is how like that would make me feel very safe in that space. Because the thing is that I've been cheated on, and it's just like, you know what, if you're going to be so tempted in that, like you need to, like, if there's something that you're not getting here or something like that, like I would rather not open up that door, but I'd rather like us like talk about this and to make our relationship more successful, where I'm not looking like a dummy over here, and you know what, maybe there's some things that I need over here, like, yeah. Because at the end of the day, like I think about, like I've done like my own little like inventory of things, or
no, just my own like little thought adventure where I'm just like, is monogamy realistic?
Right.
Not necessarily for me. I feel like I'm like very loyal. By nature very loyal, so I think I could do it. I don't think I can do it. I know I could do it. I don't know why I say they.
I have faith.
But you know what? At the end of the day, like, who knows? Maybe all of a sudden I like have this whole like thing that happens. But I just know with other people that it's just like, I think humans are animals at the end of the day, and it's sort of just by nature that they want to, I don't know, it's primitive, I guess. But I think eliminating the
deception, betrayal.
No, like when people are no longer tempted.
Sure.
To cheat, and they're like, I think because they're always going to be tempted, or they're going to have like curiosity, they're going to have attraction physically, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't love their person or want to be with them. But if there's someone that is just like by nature like a very sexually charged person, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting topic to consider and discuss, and I'm an extremely loyal person as well, and this is really the first time that this has been a situation for me, but it really works for me. Now we have certain like conditions or terms and conditions that work for each of us, like, and if someone vetoes someone, then that's that,
Yeah. Do you like, is it everything of like, okay, someone can pull the plug and be like, this isn't working for me anymore?
We review things. Okay. Let's discuss what we talked about before. Maybe someone is feeling a kind of a way about something and wants to pause it for a little bit, or maybe certain types of interactions, or maybe if Ada said like, well, I'm uncomfortable with you being with other women right now, which would not be the case because she actually is very excited about that and is quite into women herself. So,
but if someone says that, it's like there's no arguing about it. It's just you just say okay.
Well, there's like I think it's you just say okay. You may struggle with it, but then what we try to do is even stuff that we're talking about that's outside of this topic totally, is that whatever the bad feelings or hard feelings or ugly feelings or the things that you think, if I say this, they're going to really think I'm a scumbag, right? Because we have, doesn't everyone have that stuff?
Well, what stuff like?
No, and it just bad, what I call ugly feelings, like things that you were like, oh, I don't know if I can bring this up with them.
Okay.
Things like that. So if you apply it to this situation, if something was really troubling Ada, like for instance, when I was about to fly over, when she was, I can't remember how many months pregnant, I was having quite a run of guys from Grindr. And also but also I was sort of coping with a lot of anxiety, depression, and things like that. And there's really few things that will take your mind off that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of sex. And Grindr's fun for that, but then it can also become its own problem. I haven't been with anyone from Grindr since then, but she got really worried about STDs because then she was pregnant and all that.
Yeah,
and I get checked regularly.
Yeah,
but because it was so close to fly time, but then I went and booked an appointment that would give me results immediately. I told them my concerns, my situation. By the way, the queer clinic, I got to give them a shout out, and also hello to Terry. This is a perfect time to say hi to your mom. If you made it this far, Terry,
the fact that
my apologies.
Why my mom just popped in your head is it?
No, I was giving a shout out. It was about giving shout outs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I said a shout out, and I thought I meant to shout out Terry before.
Okay.
Don't worry, I don't have any untoward thoughts about it. Okay.
That was just a funny time.
No, it was very funny. It was very funny. But I just want to make sure that
okay.
So I did that. But again, that is part of honoring the precepts of the thing. Like she was worried about it, and a guy actually happened to be here when she FaceTimed, and I said, I'm sorry, we have to stop, and my apologies, but here's the situation, and thank you for understanding. Happy trails. Yeah.
So long.
Yeah, exactly. But when I was out at the 100 Club in London, I was making out with this woman, and then we both left her a message later on saying, because the other thing is, the aim is to be upfront with everyone. So if I find that I'm flirting with someone or I'm talking to someone, the funniest is when flirting or like seeing someone, and I always manage to get that information in the thing. Well, my partner and I, my primary partner, there's like little things you say my primary partner, and that kind of gives the information very quickly that it's primary partner and I'm up for fun. So whether or not it leads that way in the discussion or whatever, but if you're like, oh, this is a likely candidate or someone I'm interested in, so there's a lot of aspects of that.
Okay. I mean, it's probably just like is like learning, or like it's like a muscle you gotta
yeah, well, no pun or all puns intended, but I also appreciate discussing this at length, not just for my own edification, but to me, I think that the concept of non-monogamy is still kind of taboo to some people. I mean, and you're not someone who's necessarily shocked easily, and no. I'm not also saying that you're shocked. However,
I'm not shocked. It's just like it's one of those things that I mean, I hate to say that it's taboo because there's quite a few people I know that have non-monogamous relationships, but I'm just always like, I find it kind of like fascinating that people are able to like have that kind of openness and especially communication in their relationships, because that is often the breakdown in so many relationships. And it's interesting that they happen in the types of relationships where there is so much extracurricular happening.
That's the thing.
But it's like, you would think that it'd be the opposite, because like a lot of times people, they're in these monogamous relationships and, no cheating has happened, but people are insecure and jealous and feeling like all types of way, and they can't communicate about anything. But then there's other people like just happily getting their whatever elsewhere, as well as with their partner, and having
And also
good communication about it. So it's like, maybe y'all are onto something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. And also it's not put a damper on our sex life. If anything, she really enjoys either videos of interactions or in-depth discussions, which is like a aphrodisiac to her. And obviously she's been sort of off the market in terms of activities because of being pregnant and all of that stuff. And we have a lot of plans to do a lot of things with people, but yeah, we did have sex in public. That was great. It was in a playroom, but I think it's covered on a couple shows. If anyone's tired of hearing that content, I apologize, but it seems to be quite interesting, which I can't argue with. So
that's something I don't know that I would really do.
No. Well, I never expected to.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
I found with a lot of stuff, it's like once doing it, or like the first time I was with a guy or something like that. There's the anticipatory, like, oh my god, I don't know, and then you do it, and you're like, oh okay, I just did that. It's almost like going on stage or something. No, it's just like, oh okay, that wasn't bad, like that was fun. Like, oh, and then I think things like that open me up more, no pun intended, to further exploration of things that
okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm happy for you.
Well, I know you are happy for me, but I want to get back to you because I talk a lot about my stuff on the show, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about with you.
Okay.
And is there anything in particular that you would like to talk about?
I mean, in particular,
I usually say that for the end of the show, but I just wanted to throw it back at you for a second.
I'm like over the top of my head.
No, that's okay. How have you found friendships affected by the fact that you are divorced? Because I've noticed sometimes with couples, when the couple breaks apart, and I'm not asking about specific people on the show or anything like that, and I don't want to know any, spoilers or anything. It's more about other people or family members, their reaction to you and the vibe you get off of them. Did you notice a change?
I wouldn't say, I'm trying to think, like, everyone was supportive of me, they were, of course. I know, like, I don't think it was like the most shocking thing, but I think people were still surprised because they just thought, like, I just thought, even though like there was issues or obviously, we would see how interactions and things like that, we just thought like you were just fine with it. So like, obviously, but because with Tom and I, we shared so much of mutual friends, having been together for so long and, having tight knit group, we were like nervous that it would make other people feel like they had to choose sides. So we were adamant that like, we don't want anyone to choose sides. Like, if you're going to have a party, you don't have to decide who you're going to invite.
Yeah. Like
you can invite us both if one of us like doesn't want, but we also like wanted to like have a friendship after, which has not been the easiest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I tried the whole, we're going to do this amicably thing, and then I found out some stuff, and
well, like the thing is that like he was the one, and I wasn't against it, but it was like I thought like, okay, we're gonna need like some time, like, but he was like wanting to like hang out like immediately after, like he would ask me like to go have lunch, to go have happy hour, and I'd be like no, and eventually I was like, okay, like I think I can do this, and then but I was just kind of like, all right, if we're gonna be friends, there's just some things that I need to help me because I'm, healing still. And so like, I just think, like with any friendship that you're trying to get off the ground or whatever, you just need, just in order to feel comfortable. So that's why I was like, maybe don't date anyone in this, like this particular immediate group of people, especially when it was so like show related. I was like, if I have to talk about what you're doing with someone directly involved in this for the next 7 months and it's going to be thrown in my face, like that's going to kind of throw me off track.
Yeah, it can still hurt even after the fact, even after the papers are signed and it's all done and dusted.
And even though I'm the one that initiated everything, it's not necessarily because I wanted it. No one wants to get divorced, but anyway, and then, obviously people had opinions. Our friends had opinions about, most of them were very supportive of us wanting to be friends, but a lot of people didn't understand it because that might not be something they would want to do, but that's what we had chosen.
And I think that's something that I notice a lot. It's it's almost like the act of you doing what you wanted challenges their notions about themselves. It puts into their mind, well, wait a second. Maybe if they're in a marriage or not. Yeah. What if I might not be happy too? Oh, I don't want to think about this. Oh, well, maybe I won't hang out with them, or I won't ask questions about it, or I'll act like nothing happened.
Yeah. It's just like, it was like, okay, well, just because you might not do this way or you wouldn't handle it the same way doesn't mean that we shouldn't. And I don't think that like you inserting your opinion is helpful or supportive right now. Yeah. Like you could just say like, you could just keep it to yourself, but I mean, and obviously like there's, people like, who shares the same name as him. He was obviously like much closer with Tom, so I didn't really think that like he was gonna go out of his way to like be there for me in any capacity. And and I had friends that we shared that were much closer to me, but they still didn't like ignore him or treat him poorly. There was no reason for that, but like it's just there was a different like a shift in some dynamics, but then I just kind of embraced some people that were outside of our group a little bit more too, just to not make it super intense for a little while. But then that was also nice as well, because I wanted to get outside of the bubble a little bit more too. Obviously like I still have like my nearest and dear, like Stassi's my best friend, and with Hartford and all that. But especially with some of like my single girlfriends and going out a bit more and doing that whole thing. But
yeah, which is a good thing too, because we can get too stuck in this goes back to the other thing. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is it's all decided now. These are my friends. They're the only ones I hang out with. And sometimes the friendships can turn toxic. Sometimes they can just turn in a very banal way, unfulfilling. And it's always good to remember that, like we talked about a number of times years ago. What's the line? Like some friends are for a season. The phrase.
Yeah, some people come into your life for a season, but always for a reason.
Yeah, which can be very hard to accept. I have trouble with that too.
Well, I mean, some of these people were in my life for like a decade, so I wouldn't call it like a season.
No, but
But I mean, like, yeah, but also it's just like, okay, well, I also have just like a lot more
seasons.
Time. Yeah, I have a lot more time on my hands, and like my activities and how I spend my time are looking a lot different. So that is opening me up to like new friends and new relationships, or like friends that I haven't seen or spent time with, because not that like I wouldn't have any business hanging out with them, but it's like, they were doing different things than I was doing. So like, may as well like go see. Yeah. It's just been nice to kind of like open up I keep a really tight circle, but like, and I'm very selective. So I'm not like just hanging out with anyone, but I mean, open it up a little bit more to people that, spending time with people that I hadn't really spent a lot of time with before.
Hate to leave you on a cliffhanger, but that's the end of part 1. Check out part 2 coming next week. And of course, head on over to patreon.com/CraigandFriends.